Hey, welcome back, Better Call Saul fans. Today we're going to talk about Season 6, Episode 9, Fun and Games of Better Call Saul. If you have not seen that episode, you got to get off this video until you see it. This is going to be a quasi-recap as well as a review of the episode. I think I've got 14 things that I want to point out that I noticed about the episode that I want to talk about. There are no spoilers for the rest of the series in this video, although there are, of course, spoilers for Season 6, Episode 9. If you know somehow what's going to happen the rest of the series, please do not put it in the comments. The comments is a spoiler-free zone. It's a film production-free zone. We're just guessing in the comments. So keep it cool down there, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Let's jump into things. Now, the way I structured this is it's really 14 things that we've learned throughout the episode. So, number one, the first thing that we learned is that Jimmy has really internalized what Mike tells him. In this episode, Jimmy says to Kim, "One day we'll wake up, brush our teeth, and we won't even think about it, about what happened to Howard," which is a line he got straight from Mike. Despite the annoyances that he has with Mike at times, Mike's influence on him and his viewpoint over the world cannot be overshadowed. In Season 5, after the Bagman incident, Jimmy's having a tough time dealing with the fallout of everything that he went through, and he asks Mike, "When is this going to be over?" Mike says that there's going to be a day where Jimmy will go on with his life and he will not even think about what happened in the desert. It will simply be behind him. Now we see Jimmy repeating that same line to Kim after the Howard incident. But that's not the only time that Jimmy's echoed Mike's sentiments. Also in the car, when Jimmy and Mike are talking, Mike tells Jimmy the famous line about how when you're going down a road and once you're on that road, you can't get off of it. Jimmy repeats that line to Kim later that same night. So Jimmy has really internalized and bought into many of the quote-unquote lessons that Mike has developed in his own time going down this criminal road. And I think that's really important for us in understanding how Jimmy becomes Saul and Mike's influence there, because he's absolutely had a big influence on how he thinks. The second thing that I noticed is that Gus absolutely runs circles around Don Eladio. Hector, through the cousins, is able to get everyone up to speed on what he knows and what he thinks is going on. I can't imagine how many hours that took, but hey, good for them that they sat through all of that. And we know what Hector's saying or trying, with his little bell, what he's saying is 100% correct. We know he's right. Don Eladio hears the story. He asks about the dental records, the burned body, and all of that really does make it seem like Lalo actually did die. But what he did not do is push Gus at all on the story. So Gus never really has to explain himself. I would have liked to see that personally, but it didn't happen. And despite the constant ringing of the bell by Hector, Eladio is satisfied with the proof and he really doesn't press the issue. As we remember in the previous episode, Gus says that Eladio has no vision, no patience, no thought. He is stupid and impulsive. As we know, especially through Breaking Bad, but also in watching this episode, Gus was spot on in this assessment, and he's running laps around these guys. The only one who had a chance was Lalo, and the rest of them are terribly outmatched, especially when it comes to IQ. The third thing that we learned is that Gus really did find love. I think it was either Vince or Peter said earlier before the season aired that Gus was going to find love. And we actually see this in this episode. He goes to a nice restaurant, has a glass of wine, and he talks to a waiter named David and hints that he's going to share a really nice bottle of wine for a special occasion, in my mind, hinting that he's going to share it with David, or at least he wants to. But as David goes to get another bottle of wine, he contemplates something and then he leaves. And so I'd like to hear from all of you, but why is Gus walking away? Gus, what are you thinking leaving this really nice guy out in the cold? Does he know that his life is full of danger and he doesn't want David to be a part of it? Perhaps he thought about all the innocent people who have been harmed and he doesn't want to take the chance of bringing David into this world. Also, perhaps he's just still not over Max. Maybe he thinks about Max every single day. Maybe it's a hole inside of him that he can't really fix and he doesn't want to even attempt to try and bring someone else into the picture there. Either way, I would have loved to see, Gus find love with David, but Gus has seems like shut that part of his life off to protect maybe himself as well as to protect David. The fourth thing that we learned is that Mike finally gets called out on his BS. After he told Mr. Varga that his son is dead and he won't be found, Mike assures Manuel that the Salamancas will face justice. Mike's trying to make himself feel better, let's make no mistake about it, but Manuel wants no part of this gangster justice that Mike believes in. And finally, we have someone calling out Mike for his justifications for his actions. Even though we know that Mike won't change, it was satisfying to see Manuel tell Mike what's really going on and have an honest, objective viewpoint of what he's doing and the sins that he's committing. Mike's made excuse after excuse for himself, but Manuel really sets him straight in this scene, and it was a great scene. The fifth thing that we learned is that Cheryl is not buying Jimmy and Kim's BS. Cheryl was masterful in this scene. She knows that Jimmy and Kim were playing games on Howard, and she cannot imagine that her husband was a drug addict and feels like they aren't playing straight with her at the memorial. And she's not going to give in easily. Just because Jimmy and Kim are great liars does not mean she's going to go along with the story that they made up. Now, my sixth point is in the same scene where we see that Jimmy finally shows that he can be introspective. He can reflect on himself. In this same scene, when Cheryl is initially not buying the story, Jimmy says something I never thought he would actually admit. He says, quote, "There was a certain amount of jealousy on my part because Howard had the respect of my brother, which I never did." Wow, I was so excited to see this. Bravo, Jimmy, for finally showing us that you have the ability to reflect on your own actions and why you do the crazy things that you do. Of course, as we all know, it doesn't change his behavior in the future, and it won't change his behavior in Breaking Bad, but it's refreshing to see Jimmy acknowledge this. At least he has this skill, even though he doesn't use it often or ever, other than this one circumstance. But at least he knows internally why he's lashing out at Howard. The seventh thing that we learned, and again, we're staying in the same scene here, is that Kim is ruthless. Kim realized that Cheryl was not buying Jimmy's story, so she jumped in to help him out, just like she jumped in to help out Jimmy when Jimmy was struggling in his story with Lalo in Season 5 relating to what happened in the desert. She comes up with the story that she saw Howard after hours at HHM at his desk with his head down snorting something. We know this isn't true, and Kim, in my mind at least, almost immediately regrets it when she sees Cheryl sobbing, telling her maybe she misinterpreted what she saw. But the damage had been done, and Kim was able to put a dagger into Cheryl's line of questioning and got them out of that uncomfortable situation. I did see a few others say that Kim was digging the knife in deeper here by saying, quote, "He was your husband, you knew him better than anyone else," while Kim obviously knew that they were living apart and the marriage was really on thin ice. I didn't take it that way, but let me know how you took it in the comments below. Was Kim trying to, stab that knife in deeper, or was she trying to give Cheryl some kind of out and make her feel a little bit better? Let me know what you think. Number 8, again, we're staying in the same scene. We're going to the next scene. Kim has a conscience. Despite her lies, she knows that she is not a good fit to be a lawyer, and she sends her resignation to the bar. She had an oath and a duty as a lawyer and an officer of the court, and she failed to live up to it multiple times because of her relationship with Jimmy. As a result, she finally does the right thing and ends her time as a lawyer. Jimmy should do the same, but we know he won't. And I do know what happened here also impacts a teaser that the show gave us during that 6-week break. I won't say which teaser or give more details here because I know some people don't want to watch any teasers. So I'll try and do a separate video on that later this week. And if you've seen all the teasers that they gave us during that break, then you probably know what I'm talking about, but something for us to think about and talk about later. The 9th thing that we learned is that Kim finally realized that they are terrible for each other. She had this thought earlier in season 5 when they almost broke up, but instead they got married. But this time, she finally pulls the plug on this fun, exciting, and extremely toxic relationship. She finally says what we've noticed for years. Quote, "We are bad for each other. I have had the time of my life with you, but other people suffer because of us. Together, we are poison." Exactly right. And she doesn't even give Jimmy a chance to change her mind. Her mind is already made up with her bags almost packed and she's ready to go. In her mind, enough damage has been done on their watch and they need this to end. Again, bravo Kim for realizing something that was really important for her to, I think, realize, at least to be able to reflect back on this. And so I absolutely love this scene, and I'm glad that this is where her character went. The 10th thing that we learned, again, staying in the same scene, is that Jimmy learns the truth about Lalo. We all wondered if Kim would fess up about knowing that Lalo is still alive, and Kim does come clean. The guilt that she felt because she kept this to herself and indirectly caused Howard's death is too much for her, especially after Jimmy says that Lalo, quote unquote, came back from the dead. Kim did not want to tell him because she knew Jimmy would freak out, run and hide, pull the plug on the scam, and then they'd break up. And Kim says, matter of fact, she didn't want to stop because she was having too much fun. But as a result of this, Howard is dead, and Kim can finally see clearly about their relationship and the damage that it has wrought to many, many lives. The guilt got the best of her, and she had to tell the truth about Lalo, and she had to get out of this toxic relationship. The 11th thing that we learned is that Kim is not living with Saul in Breaking Bad. What an incredible scene where we flash forward to Saul in his mansion, waking up with the prostitute. There's no sight of Kim. She held true to her word to leave in that scene in the apartment. I think we can finally say now that Kim is not living there with Saul in the mansion. But is there a chance that Kim has contact with Saul during the Breaking Bad timeline? Could she contact Saul and be in the Breaking Bad timeline even if she doesn't live with him? Or will we only get her character in the Better Call Saul timeline and potentially the Gene timeline? My guess, and it's a complete guess, is that she's in all three timelines in some way. I will personally take as much Kim Wexler as they give us. The 12th thing that we learned is that Saul gets a lot of public masturbators as clients. In the shower in that Saul scene, he says, quote, "Another public masturbator? A new guy? Everyone must be doing it." Now remember when we first met Saul in Breaking Bad, he meets Badger and he says, "Brandon Mayhew, here we go, public masturbation." And Brandon obviously corrects him because that wasn't what he was doing. But the question that I had in my mind when we saw this scene was, is this the same day that he gets introduced into Breaking Bad? Now I looked into this and specifically what Saul is wearing on each day, and they look like different dress shirts as well as different ties. If the writers were trying to make that connection, I'm positive that they would have made the clothing match up. So unless Saul needs to change his shirt for some reason, I doubt it's the same day. The 13th thing that we learned is that Jimmy is able to transform fully into Saul all on his own. I was slightly surprised by this, to be honest. Jimmy has been slowly making his slow and steady transition into Saul over the last 5 seasons. The speed of that transformation has really picked up over the last 2 seasons, but he still wasn't there in season 6. But now Kim leaves him, and instead of doing more of the reflecting that Kim did, which caused her to leave, he goes all in on the road he was already going down with Kim. And in the intervening years between Howard's death and the start of Breaking Bad, we know that Jimmy fully becomes Saul on his own. Kim does not help him buy that house with the gaudy decorations. She doesn't help him buy the Cadillac or even the blow up of Lady Liberty. That's all Saul, all on his own. The 14th thing that we learned, this is a question. This is a wrap-up question. Are we done completely with the Better Call Saul timeline? Friends, we've got 4 episodes left, and I do not know any leaks or spoilers about the next 4, so this is complete speculation. So rest assured, no spoilers. My question to you is, are we completely done with the Better Call Saul Saul timeline? Are we going to spend the next 4 episodes in the Breaking Bad and Gene timelines? Maybe 2 in Breaking Bad and 2 with Gene? Or could we perhaps have 1 more in the Better Call Saul timeline, 1 more in Breaking Bad's timeline, and then 2 more with Gene? I have no idea why, but I have this thought in my head that Gene's going to get 2 episodes. Who knows? I would love to hear your thoughts and your guesses on how it's all going to play out down below. Again, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.